All right, here's me feeding my fish this afternoon. We'll start with some of the community pellets. And I'll throw some nano feed in for the guys with the smaller mouths. They should be active for a few minutes here as we watch them dart around eating. I'm gonna lean back, drink a drink, and just watch them go. The plants you see are pretty much started out as one Vallisneria, which is about 3 or 4 different individual nodules of it. And so what it does is it grows up to the top of the aquarium, and then it spreads more pieces of it into the nooks and crannies. I believe I had changed this out right at the end of the summer, and it was a lot of low growing Vallisneria, and so I cleared out a lot of that growth and tried to encourage it to grow a little higher, and I got some spots in the back that are growing higher now. Part of it is getting enough nutrition for the plants into a large tank like this. And for a long time this tank was low, wasn't very stocked, and I didn't put easy green in it, and I didn't really have root tabs, and so it wasn't really populating very well. But now I've been putting easy green in there at least once every couple weeks or so. Should probably put more. And I do have root tabs every month in specific spots. Both easy green and root tabs should be done pretty soon here. If you look at right now, you can see I still got a school of pristella tetras that kind of roam amongst those weeds there. I think they're really enjoying that world. And then the majority of the tenants in this tank are guppies. In fact, will be considered almost like a mud guppy. And the majority of them right now are red. They actually are a mix of a blue guppy, a greenish yellow guppy, and what's called a red blonde guppy. The red blonde guppy is one that I'm going to continue to try and breed out separately, not in this tank. These are actually what would be considered coals from that. Either they have mixed lineage, say a blue guppy and a green guppy, and then maybe a red guppy together, so we're not going to get all that same type of guppy out of them, so hence the mud guppy. Or these fish might be really old, have deformities, or both. So a lot of the females in here are actually very old females that also have developed deformities over time. And what I've found out with a lot of times with female guppies, they will carry a large brood. See those big old guppies with the big stomachs and stuff, and it's as if their body breaks down while carrying those big broods. And maybe it's a line or breed specific on when that happens, because a lot of my green snakeskin guppies ended up kind of in that way. But again, These females are pretty old. They're over a year old. A lot of them were born prior to, maybe just less than a year old, because I believe I had bred them right before spring last year. There's one swordtail in the middle. Got him a year or two back. Can't remember exactly when. It might have been more than a year, but bought him from Fish World, which is a local pet store here, a local fish store here in Lincoln, Nebraska. These comes from a locally bred group of swordtails that were being sold at the time, and they were what was considered red swordtails. And something about this one caught my eye. I didn't want to buy a bunch of them. Number one reason why was most of them were males. There may have been one or two females in that group, but if I was gonna get a male and female combination, I would want more than one female per male swordtail, because if you don't, they'll harass the female swordtails. But now, seeing how awesome the swordtail is looking, I might look to breed it. Swordtails, you don't see people really breed them out much for profit or get a big bunch of them like this, because it takes a long time for them to breed in the first place. It takes longer for them to mature. With guppies, you can get them breeding within 3 months or 4 months. With swordtails, since they take longer to grow up, you might be looking at 6, 7, 8 months, maybe even a year before you start pairing them up. And you need more space. If you can see how big that swordtail is in comparison to the other occupants, the guppies, the only fish in here larger than the swordtail is the angelfish. And the angelfish is really, really big. But the swordtail itself is probably a good 3 or 4 inches long. And with the sword, it's pushing 6 inches, maybe 7. The key about the swordtail was when I bought him, he didn't even barely have a sword. He just had the gonopodium, the pointy fin on his belly that they use for mating. And it was just kind of just seeing what would happen if he grew out. And now it's become one of the coolest fish I think I've ever had. But you can see he's kind of lonely. He's got some pent up testosterone going on, or whatever the heck male fish have with them, and every once in a while you'll see him chase a couple of the guppies around. But a swordtail guppy mate is not possible, but a swordtail platy combo is. I have 2 Hawaiian Bareatus platies in here, and looking at the video, yeah, you might be able to see a couple in the back there. They are a fish that can be very widely distributed within temperature within your tank. They aren't necessarily cool water, but they do okay or well in temperatures below 65. Most of these other fish in here want it to at least be 72, if not higher. Probably the key range would be 75 or 76. That's really what's going on in here. Again, it's like a coal location. A lot of these males are not genetically, do not have a genetic problem. They I just ran out of space for them in my other tanks, and not necessarily run out of space, but just I had a tank full of 20 longs with male guppies, but I also have another 20 long that has mutt guppies together. But I wanted to keep certain males out of that mutt population because I didn't want it to be dominated by a certain type. Red, the red is really coming out. Seems to be a dominant type trait. But the blonde body is not. The blonde body, I've learned, is a recessive trait. And the only fish that I'm going to get out of here that are blonde are usually blonde reds bred with other blonde reds. And so that's why they have their own tank. And when I need fry come out that are blonde, I assume that's what they're. So looking at this tank, obviously it looks pretty crowded. It's a 40-gallon breeder. It's deeper than most tanks that you see. It's long too. It's about 36 inches long, I think, maybe 40. 18 inches high. See, don't quote me on any of this. But with the increased number of fish in here, we could be seeing an increase in nitrogen type deals. Maybe some ammonia, nitrites, or nitrates might be building up. A few of the more susceptible fish might be showing agitation to that, and you might see them flash against a plant here and there, and that's kind of what I keep an eye out when I come out here to look for them, to see if any of my fish are flashing. And what I've learned over time is if I have fish that aren't looking very well, but there's no obvious disease, number one, look at the temp. This has happened to me before where I saw a bunch of fish that were just not doing well, and then found out a heater had actually given out. And I'm down here in the basement, and in order to get these guppies to at least 70 or 72, I have to run a heater on it. And if I don't run a heater, they'll fall to about 68 or 66 degrees. They'll still survive. In fact, the mud guppies themselves will most likely be okay and actually be able to continue on with their lives. But the pure strains, things like the blue galaxy guppies or the red blonde guppies, I feel that those are the ones that may have issues with the cooler temps. There you go. I call him Zorro. No, Zorro is the swordtail. I call him Zorro. The angelfish I'm calling Angel. Yes, that's just a fish that I can name it. So now they've gone through the food. They're still looking for more. I'm gonna drop in another group of pellets in here and see what they do with them. I should take them down pretty strong, but I think a lot of the other food is kind of getting in nooks and crannies. But kind of where we're going with this. I'll give them some more food. Aquarium Co-op Community Pellets. They float more than normal pellets of this type. A lot of times pellets fall very quickly. They're made more for fish that are more in the middle. But you see right here, I've got fish in the middle range that are eating it. It's the pristella tetras. And a few of them are spitting it out, which means those guys, while still wanting to taste the food, they're like, well, I've had enough. But this extra food is for those other fish that are in here that have not had enough, and so going for it. That angelfish never has enough. Another reason for having the angelfish in here, the obvious reason. Well, maybe not the obvious reason. The obvious reason is the center point for the tank. Got a big old fish somewhere around. That looks cool. The almost underground dark version is it provides a predator in here to take out any excess baby fish, right? So you're going to have quite a few baby fish when you have male and female guppies. And right now I don't have the means to raise them in large quantities. I will in about a month or two when I start up my outside tubbing, but I don't now. And plus there's some guppies in here that I'm not going to euthanize them. I want them to live out their life, but their offspring they give out is not going to be good, because after a while you get enough inbreeding going on, you got enough bent spines and things like that, that those same things kind of show up in the baby guppies. And one of the things I've found, and it happened last time I tried this with a bunch of mud guppies, was that I had a female come out. She popped out like 70 babies, and I thought it was the coolest thing. But as those baby fish grew up, came out with deformities, problems with spine injuries and things like that. So when my guppies get to a certain size, even if I feel they're a really good quality, or could make a good quality, they go on here and then live up their life. That's our 15-minute update of what's going on here in the 40-gallon breeder. Peace out.